Meanwhile, the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen summed up the mood in Europe yesterday by saying the body was ready to reconnect with the United States after what has widely been described as a strained 4 years in the transatlantic relationship. Our Brussels correspondent Dave Keating has more for us now on those plans to reset relations.
We saw a real change in tone from a lot of European leaders yesterday when it came to talking about Trump, and I think it shows just how diplomatic these leaders need to be when they're talking about the current U.S. president. So on one hand, we had EU leaders, Commission President von der Leyen, Council President Charles Michel, really being very blunt yesterday about how difficult the last 4 years were with President Trump and very, very enthusiastically welcoming Joe Biden. Then you had other leaders like Boris Johnson, who really tied himself very close to Trump over the past 4 years, even though before Trump was president, Johnson was quite critical of him. Now he'd like to kind of go back to that pre-Trump presidency state and kind of pretend that the 4 years didn't happen before. And he's very enthusiastically embracing Joe Biden. But we also saw that in Europe's far right, who have very closely identified with Trump over the past 4 years, they also enthusiastically welcomed Joe Biden. We had leaders like Hungary's Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, or Italy's effective opposition leader, Matteo Salvini, who have been big Trump backers, say they welcome Joe Biden's presidency. But what we're really looking at here is a difference in enthusiasm, right? Because everyone has to give at least the boilerplate language welcoming Biden and saying they want to work with him. It's a question of the enthusiasm. And certainly Orban's statement yesterday was not so enthusiastic. And he said he'd like to continue the good work that's happened between Hungary and the U.S. over the past 4 years. That's very different from the statements of other leaders like Emmanuel Macron in France and EU leaders who have not been shy about saying the past 4 years have been quite difficult. But I think when we're reading between the lines there for that enthusiasm, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next weeks and months to see if that enthusiasm from these EU leaders is maintained as they watch what the Biden administration does.
Dave Keating for us there. Well, in a few hours' time, when President